absolutely takes forever. It just happens sometimes. And then you don't know if you're really live or maybe you are, but possibly you are. Okay. Okay, here's chat. Do you see where I put that? That's where you are. And once I can get enough people here, I do a lot of my work these days at the very last minute. Hi, Joanna. Thank you for coming. I wanted to give everyone a chance to preview the album. If you haven't already, so many of you have already purchased the album. It's like so incredibly dirt cheap compared to its production, which is very expensive. So donations welcome as usual. But aside from that, it was just such an incredible album to make, and I wanted to discuss it, give you a chance to listen to it a little bit. If you haven't, went over to iTunes yet, it's there. It's on Spotify. It's on, I think it should be on YouTube here coming up soon, with its own topic, much like my other album is. But it was just such an incredible experience. I wanted to spend some time discussing it with you and answering your questions about it and just talking about that. Some people asked me a couple of days ago some questions about, transitioning from channeling to spiritual teaching to music. And I just had to respond to that and say, it's not really like that. So I've been a musician before. The first thing I did was channel music before I could even really open my mouth. Like if you go back and look at my baby books, I was singing before I was speaking. At 10 months old, I was already able to identify tunes and sing them back to my mom. So channeling for me is singing. It's not a transition. It's just going, into that as well, not as a replacement to any of my channeling or spiritual teachings or into my yoga practices or anything that I offer to you. It's just another addition, just sharing with you things that I love. And this is an album full of sound alchemy. So primarily they are sacred songs. There are 8 of them. And we have what do we start? We'll start with the Deer's Cry. That is a traditional, Irish song. And it has a story behind it about St. Patrick. So you can look up that story. It is a really beautiful story about protection. So I put it first because it just really came out so quickly. It was the most easily channeled song. And there's just so much I could share with you about that. So if you ask me the right questions, I might share some of that because it's really personal, and I might not. So it depends upon how much you ask me and how specific your questions are about A Deer's Cry. But for me, it was very, very personally connected to a lot of healing and sacred connection. And just, it was really all about a specific past lifetime that I was feeling a connection with at the time. Okay. And I love the Gaelic language, and I didn't really know anything about how to speak it, but I've always had a deep respect for Ireland, much like most Americans who will often say, oh, my ancestors are from Ireland and we're from the, O'Flynn's or the O-somethings or the this or the that. Yeah, half of my family actually really is Irish. Like my grandmother on my mother's side is straight up Irish, and it's, we have stories, like passed down stories about, their time in Ireland. So I just wanted to really honor that and connect to that part of myself, because I felt that I hadn't really connected to that part of myself yet. And it was very, very interesting. I met this incredible Irish person, who was a student of mine for, I want to say maybe about 6 or 7 months at that time. And she sat down and she really inspired me. So she taught me Gaelic. She spent about an hour with me, and she taught me all of the Gaelic words to the Deer's Cry. And it just caught on. She and I were both really surprised at how quickly that just caught on and how that just went, it just blew open, and I had no idea what was going to come out of me, but I could hear this song in my mind. I could hear it. And it just felt like singing in a cathedral, but maybe a really, really ancient one, not a more modern one. And I felt to sit down and I recorded what sounded like Gregorian chanting, but even older. And then I felt to add a very unusual harmony. And then, I sat with Michael Odell, my composer and producer on this album. And he said, "What are you hearing and what are you feeling?" And I said, "I'm just feeling so much overwhelming sacred love right now, just so much sacred love. And it just has to flow out of me. It just has to come out right now." And he was like, "Oh, well, it just got," he was spending like the whole summer with me recording this album. And I think he was like, "Oh, I'll be there in just a minute. I am just coming out of the shower. Just give me 1 minute." And he was there. And we sat down and I said, "I just hear this song. I just hear it so clearly. I hear it. I feel it in every part of my body." And it felt like it was healing me as it was coming out of me. The song felt like it was healing me, like it was literally invigorating all of the cells in my being, my whole being, emotionally and physically and everything. And I was getting a lot of like, kind of, as Akashic record reviewers often say, flashbacks, that I was getting a lot of memories, a lot of images, as a channel, I get that. I get a lot of clairvoyance, like a lot of visions and a lot of smells connected to those visions and just feelings connected to those visions. And I was getting all of that. So I sat down and I created the melody and then I layered the harmony over it. And it came out of me. I think Michael and I recorded this one in maybe less than 30 minutes. And I'm like, and now I'm done. And that was it. And he was just kind of staring at me and everyone. I think one of my close friends, Aaron, was with me at the time. And he was looking at me as well. And just sort of like, "That just come out of you?" And like, that did just come out of me. And people were really in my home. All my friends surrounded me and they were really surprised that could happen. So that's the story of that. And I'll let you listen to it and I will answer your questions about The Deer's Cry now. Just hopefully you can hear it. Can you hear it? That's my singing bowls. So that's just one of my singing bowls there. It's my sacral chakra bowl. Now it's time for all your questions as you feel it. So it means Christ above me, Christ all around me, Christ above me, Christ below me. It's all about Christ consciousness and connecting to that in everything and everyone. And that's what I was feeling. Just everything. I remember feeling like so deeply in love, in this song, and so just overpowered with this deep sacred love that I couldn't quite grasp at that time. And I just went with it. It was very celestial. It just felt kind of like, I don't know, like a coming home, like a deep, loving homecoming. It felt felt very monastic, very sacred. And then it ended in this way where it's kind of the only song on the album that I actually resolve. If you'll notice that, listen to that again, it actually resolved, which I don't. And all the other songs, I don't give a resolve at all. This is the only song on the album that goes from all the minor notes to a major, and it ends on a major resolve, which is very rare for me, by the way. Yeah. And it ends with the same singing bowl that it began with, and the strings. Okay, do you have any questions about that or about the process or anything that was going through my head or heart at the time? If you do, I'm really, really open. I'll give that a few minutes. That is my second album. That's the first song on my second album, which is called Sacred Songs of the Heart. It released publicly today. It's been on private release since December the 12th. So I just wanted to come on here and answer your questions about it, and just really have a candid conversation. It was a beautiful album to create. Yeah. And the only, like I said, the only song on the entire album that ends in a major resolve. Everything else is completely open and fully in minors and unresolved the whole way, dissonant. You wouldn't believe the stuff I did on this album. Completely unlike Grace of the Samaveda and all of the very concrete, resolved songs and mantras in the Transcendental Mantra album I did. And number one, completely different. Why are you having problems finding the album? You could be misspelling my name. So remember, I have 3 A's in my name. It's Aaralyn. And then you will find it under Sacred Songs of the Heart. It's a black album with a moon on it and a double-lined road. Oh, it reminded you of a Catholic choir. It felt prior to that in history for me. In my lifetime, it felt much prior to that. But yeah, I could see where you're coming from with that. I really did want that kind of effect, the very sacred song. And this album is all about sacred songs for me. How did I come up with choosing specific songs and mantras for this album? I didn't. I took requests, and this was by a request of someone I deeply love and respect. So it came out in that way. The Deer's Cry did. And I needed a Gaelic song, and I was having a hard time because I'm not Irish, in that way. I don't live in Ireland. So I took a request, and I trusted the person who requested it, and it just flew out of me because of that deep love and trust for the person requesting it, and my deep connection with her. And then for the rest of them, Ho'oponopono, which we're about to move on to and let you take a listen to. It was, I've been doing the Ho'oponopono for, I don't know, 5 years for you guys. And you wanted my rendition of the Ho'oponopono. You've been asking for 5 years, so I just finally did it. Yeah. So if you don't have any more questions about that song, I'll move on to the Ho'oponopono and discuss it. So. Oh, did I do a reading for you? That's awesome, Scotty. Yeah. I'm happy that your life is different. I hope that's a good different. Yeah, I have been just floating on a cloud. It's been such a bittersweet day for me because it's just so many things going on today. But there's been a lot of sadness, and I'm happy sad today. It's a weird day for me to release an album. I don't know why I didn't do it on the 12th, to be frank. But yeah, the Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. So it's sacred. It's another sacred song. So it does belong on this album full of sacred songs. And And we need it. It's deep in shamanism. I do it in a lot of my healing practices. You've been requesting it. I've been singing it to you on YouTube for years now. And I thought that it belonged and deserved to be on an album. And I primarily did it a cappella with a drum. And it also came out of me relatively quickly. I think we only spent about an hour recording this one. There was a lot of layered harmonies. I wanted it to be primarily a cappella, but I was tired and out of pitch, and being a perfectionist, and probably driving my producer Michael Odell nuts, which, by the way, he's incredible. You can look him up at Honeycomb Studios, is my producer, mixer, and composer for this album. Yeah, he was incredible. So yeah, but Ho'oponopono, there was a lot of layers, and I wanted to, I'll give you the really behind the scenes story to it before I let you listen to it. I was just doing the I'm sorry, forgive me, I thank you, I love you lyrics along with the Ho'oponopono. And then I was driving with my friend Erin, we're really, really close. And I said, gosh, I'm hearing something. Because this is how I work with music. I was just driving to pick up one of my kids from school. And I said, I'm hearing the, I'm sorry, forgive me, I thank you, I love you. But then I was also hearing Omani Padme Hum behind it. And I had just recorded an Omani Padme Hum, or perhaps was in the process of it. So I'm like, why am I hearing this as well underneath it? So I was hearing a deep, low, shamanic, like a really low Omani Padme Hum, like monks, like Tibetan monks. And it was really hard. So I went to Michael and I said, I'm trained as a coloratura soprano. I have operatic training, and I don't sing. This is not my natural pitch. What can I do? And he's like, you have to open up, and you have to lower your chin, and you have to smile more when you're singing. And he's worked with musicians all around the world, so he just worked with me, and it took a long time to get the proper pitch, and I had to stretch outside of the boundaries of what my brain thinks that it can do, with being such a high-pitched singer. Like, my voice is very unusual pitch. So but yeah, I was listening, and I said to my friend Erin, I said, do you think that it would sound good with this low Omani Padme Hum, two harmonies layered underneath that rhythm? And he was like, yeah, I really think it would. So I recorded it, and it took me longer to record those low Omani Padme Hums than it did to record the actual Ho'oponopono chorus itself. Like, so much longer. So I will let you listen to me singing alto here now in Ho'oponopono. You hear how low that is? I had a hard time. I'm sorry, forgive me, I thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, forgive me, I thank you, I love you. Ho'oponopono, 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 Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. I really had a good time recording all the harmonies. Someone is asking, was anyone else singing? And no, this is all my voice. So I just kept layering and layering and layering. I'm sorry, forgive me. I thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, forgive me. I thank you, I love you. And might go out of strings there. The rest is completely a cappella until you add the strings right there. Yes, it is my melody. Yeah, and that is a rain stick at the end, just a rain stick that I was slowly moving like this, just really slowly and deliberately. It wasn't like a crash rain stick. How many layers? I don't know. I think with the Omani Padme Hums, it's Omani Padme Hum, Omani Padme Hum. That's the first one. And then you have one on top of that, which is Omani Padme Hum. So you have another one, and then you have the I'm sorry, forgive me, which is 3. And then you have the alto, the mid alto range to that, which is I'm sorry, forgive me, I thank you, I love you. And then you have a roundabout type of layer, which it comes in about through the middle of the song, which is just a repeat, of when I'm saying Ho'oponopono, I will say I'm sorry again, like one behind the other to layer that in that way. So I'd say I think 5 layers of melody and harmony in that song. Yeah, but I really wanted to connect the Omani Padme Hum and the Ho'oponopono because they really made sense in my body when I was singing it. I felt a deeper release, energetically. And yeah, you would love to hear me rapping about duality. I would never say never because that'll be the day that stuff happens. And I just don't want to. Rap is seriously not my genre. Rap and country are 2 genres that I just don't touch. But I can say that country has more of a potentiality if you want to do original bluegrass style stuff because I am a Southern person. So, that would have more potentiality than rap ever would. So I don't know. I can't get into the rap. Yeah, but the Omani Padme Hum, it's just so much about the compassion. And the purpose of forgiveness is compassion. And you have to have compassion in order to forgive. So it just felt that belonged together. And that's why I did it in that way. Ho'oponopono means a lot, in my life. And I have been writing Ho'oponopono letters. It is a part of my alchemy practice. I have a series of practices that are called Letter to the Universe, this whole practice. And there are a series of different types of letters you can write. And the Ho'oponopono letter to the universe, I've written several of them in my time for forgiveness of myself and others. And I started singing this tune along with them, and it would automatically bring me to tears. And it was bringing my students to tears and my clients to tears. And people were saying, my gosh, I feel so much when you sing, you have to put that on an album. You have to put this Ho'oponopono on an album. So I followed your prompting and you deeply, deeply inspired me. So it just, out of my deep respect and gratitude and inspiration, I put this song on the album for you. So, did I? Oh, that's an interesting question. My harpist just asked me, did I know that Appalachian music has strong Irish roots? I did not. But I am deeply interested in Appalachian folk music, and I can actually sing it. I'm a little weird. I can yodel. I can do very strange things with my voice. Yeah. I can yodel in a way that actually sounds okay. Doesn't sound too bad. Yeah. I can't wait until you get here. That's Maria, who's typing in chat. She does a lot of volunteering for work with me right now and is a deep alchemy student and an incredible writer. I can't wait until her books come out, guys. So she's going to be coming out and hopefully doing some recording for my third album, which I'm beginning. My journey into my third album is beginning in January when she arrives at my home with her harp and her Middle Eastern tuned flute, which I just heard. She just sent me a clip of it today. And she was like, I got this flute because I was inspired to get it. And oh my gosh, it sounds incredible. It just sounds incredible, this flute that she just bought. So I just, one of us is going to learn how to play it, I'm sure, if not both of us. Yeah, so I'm going to be, collaborating with Maria for album 3. It's going to be an incredible experience. We've always wanted to create music together, and we've always just kind of tossed it around, my friend Maria and myself. And one day I was just like, we should just do it. We should just stop talking about it and just do it. And I love harp. So I was playing around in album 2 that in album 2, I was like, hey, Michael, come listen to this. And I would go to YouTube and just put on harp music, any kind of harp music. And if I heard it, I could automatically start singing along with it, creating tunes. It doesn't matter what they're playing. If it was on a harp, I could create a song with it. It didn't matter what, some of it was Gaelic style, some of it was very Appalachian, some of it was like harp meditation music, and just very relaxing. It didn't matter what it was, I could create with it. So I'm so excited to be bringing you some harp music, courtesy of Maria, in album 3 for next year. All right, let's move on to track number 3 of my song. For those of you who are just here, it is Sacred Songs of the Heart. So thank you for joining. We're just having a candid discussion about the behind the scenes making. And Annie, one of my colleagues and another powerful channel that I deeply respect, that's Annie Rios from Lightworkers 613. You guys can find her on here on Patreon. We channel together a lot. She's incredible. She just asked me what was my favorite part about the making of this album. And I just have so many favorite parts. You guys were there with me on Patreon the whole time, kind of following my story with it. And I don't know, I think the times when I very quickly created something, like when Anya was teaching me Gaelic and that song just flew out of me. That was one of my favorite parts. What else? Just how close we all got, all of my friends in my house that were helping me at that time with it. Just how close we all were getting, and just the power of the album, and how we were all there were times when we were all just kind of, we get up in the middle of the night because Michael's a night owl. That's my producer. You guys should use him. He's incredible. Michael Odell at Honeycomb Studios in Ohio. So he'd be up because he's such a night owl. He'd be like 3 a.m. We'd meet in the kitchen and he would just be sitting there, having a snack, but he'd also be just like elsewhere. And I'm like, I'd come in because I'd be awake too. And I'm like, wow, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just thinking of this or thinking of that. And we were just like at 3 o'clock in the morning, just pour our hearts out together, around the kitchen table, eating something we probably shouldn't, like leftover pizza and things that were really not helping me in my clarity in this album. From the physiological standpoint, at least as a yogi, our diets are pretty specific. I would just like get up in the middle of the night, eat some crap, and sit there and talk with Michael and just things like that. Or some of the other things were I was recording a Lakota song with my friend Aaron, and we were looking at the lyrics, and we were like, we gotta learn these lyrics, and it didn't end up on the album, because we had some issues with the song, so it will be on album number 3. So we were looking at the Thanksgiving song, the Lakota Thanksgiving song, and this is so funny, this little story, and Aaron and I refer to it all the time. We were both sitting there, and I'm like, I feel so inspired. Listen to this artist singing it. And I'm like, so let's put on the YouTube. Hey, have you guys ever done this? Have you put on the YouTube captions that tell you, what is allegedly supposed to be there being said in English? And this is Lakota, so they were having a hard time. So certain words in the Lakota language just have no translations, and YouTube is trying, because this poor artist had captions on. Have you ever done that, like in other languages? And it's like a bad autocorrect. Like, so Tonka Shela is one of the words in Lakota for Thanksgiving, Tonka Shela. And they couldn't put like the words in the autocorrect, so they would put over Tonka Shela, whenever he would sing it, they would put punk ass Sheila. And I couldn't sing because it was just so funny. I'm like, I'd get to the part and I'd be like, Tonka Shela, and I would just start laughing. And then Aaron would start laughing. When he starts laughing, then I start laughing. I'm like, and Michael's like, what are you guys laughing at? I'm like, look at these captions. YouTube is mad. It's all mad. So Tonka Sheila became punk ass Sheila, and we could not record. We were just dying. I'm like, I cannot butcher the Lakota language. I cannot do this. As a Native American woman, like I'm not Lakota, so I even more have to have respect for their language. So I kind of put the project on hold, and we'll be pronouncing Lakota and trying again for album number 3. So that was one of my behind the scenes stories. So there's little funny moments like that would really, really be the core of the album. Just how much we laughed. We just laughed so much. We just laughed so much, and got so close, and it was just an incredible experience. I think some of the harder parts of the album, we'll talk about in a little while, but I had some harder parts when I got to the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. That was just really, really hard. Singing in Aramaic as an American is exceptionally hard. So yeah, so I had a hard time. And I remember telling Michael when I was done, we spent like 4 hours trying to record this song, and my pitch was off, and I was exhausted, and we didn't have a professional studio. We're recording this album in my house, before we figured out all the technicalities of like what to do. Since he was traveling, I wasn't in his studio. He came to my home to record it. And before we figured out that we should probably segregate all of our recording equipment in one room, we were in the living room at first. And we'd be like, turn off the refrigerator, turn off the air conditioner. We could hear like through the recording equipment is so sensitive. So my kids would be like playing a video game downstairs and typing like this. And Michael's looking at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, they type sometimes. I don't know what to tell you. Or one of them would burst out laughing, or one of them would go to the bathroom all the way downstairs, and my house is pretty big. And you could hear it. You could hear like the splashing in the urinal. We'd be like, she, yeah, he is. Oh no, we have to redo that. Just any little thing, like someone was opening a wrapper on a piece of candy and sitting on the couch, and I'd look over at her and I'm like, you cannot open that right now. You seriously can't. I'll have to do this whole passage all over again. Little things like that when you're recording, like you cannot have any of those sounds. So, all right. So we're on album number 3. This is the Lemurian Blessing of the Orishas. This is something that also just came out of me really fast. And I remember just sitting here writing it down. This is my music journal where I write down all of my different things. And, I was writing down, the language of it here. These are all my little behind the scenes scribbles. And this one is this is the Lemurian light language itself that was coming out of me. This one means divine feminine moon. This is divine masculine moon. This part says have mercy. This part says have compassion. And this is a group joining of everything. This is about unity consciousness and healing and raising your energies up to the moon and the sun. So all of that was coming out, and I was writing it down as I was hearing it, and I was seeing all of these beautiful orishas. For those of you who don't know the story of what an orisha is, you can look that up, but it's deep, very ancient, sacred African goddess, who, when orishas come into form, which is very, very rare, it's a spirit becoming a form, and it's incredible. It's an incredible experience to meet an orisha. So I was sitting there with my orisha ancestors, and we were all around a campfire, and we were all singing these songs together. So when I was singing this light language for this blessing of the orishas, I could see them all around this beautiful fire, and it was just so incredible. So that's what came of this. So here's the Lemurian blessing of the orishas. So I'm going to type out the words for you so you can sing along if you feel like it. So I know you're curious. Yeah, it is light language. If you have any questions about it, just put it in chat. What is it, Emmy? Good night, baby. Oh, okay. Thank you. Shut the door so the kitty doesn't get in. Shut the door. It's a little hard to say, so I posted the lyrics, guys, in the chat. So this is a Lemurian light language. It is a blessing of the orishas, the original healers and native women, divine feminine women on this planet in ancient Lemuria. Yeah, exactly. Brian said they're swaying with their arms above their heads. They were doing that. That is what I saw too. So it was just a little light language blessing, not a big song, but I had to put it in there because it had so much joy. It wasn't like the rest of my songs that kind of peel you apart and throw you on the ground and then love you into a submissive healing and change your life. It wasn't like the other songs that were more transformational. It was, oh, thank you for that super chat. It wasn't like that at all for me. It was like, oh, this is the break in my album where I get to like really be joyful and just completely within myself in this just pure joy. It was a complete samadhi ecstasy experience for me. Yeah. Do I have any association with the Miami Nation of Indians? No, my association is more Eastern, Southeastern. So, yeah. Catawba is actually where my tribe is traced back to. So yeah, it was a light language blessing. I put the lyrics in there. It was really easy. It means joining of divine feminine moon and divine masculine sun, and having mercy and compassion on everything that appears to be sad. Like it's an uplifting, like lift all the sadness into the heavens is basically the general interpretation of that light language for you. Yeah, it's so catchy. Yeah, and I wanted to keep going. There, you can notice in my writings, just showing you that I actually put other light language in there that I didn't end up singing. So that might be just more of a project for album 3 or some other time. But I had 1, 2, 3 other lines that did not end up going in there for some reason. So. Okay, now we're going to move on to my second favorite song on the album, which is the Omani Padme Hum. So it is fully orchestrated. Michael Odell, the composer here, did an incredible job. And I really couldn't understand what I was hearing, but it needed to be more progressive. Every Omani Padme Hum that I've ever heard has sounded a little bit kind of just, I mean, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's really, Omani Padme Hum, Omani Padme Hum, kind of much like you heard traditionally at the base of my Ho'oponopono. But I didn't want to do this time. I really wanted it to be the most powerfully uplifting, something you could dance to and spin around, like if you had on a pretty frilly dress that you could spin around in circles and get really joyful about. And that is the energy and frequency that I was trying to connect to with this particular Omani Padme Hum. Okay? Hey, it's right here.
Such scribbles.
Okay, you're supposed to be in bed. I love you. It's holidays around here, so I thought I had a little one in bed, but she's like, actually, I had a question for you. So I don't have much that I put in my little musical journal here about my Omani Padme Hum, but I was getting ready to record a Maori song. I was going to do the Hey Honore, and it couldn't come out of me. As you can see, I learned all your languages and put it in transliteration, Maori people. I went through all this and it wouldn't come out of me. So it had to be a second album thing that became a third one. And then I went on to some Ori Ori Waiata, and that didn't come out of me as well. So we got to keep going with the Maori stuff. It was beautiful, but I didn't like what came out of me. It was like sad. It made me sad. So I'm going to try again for album 3 with the Maori stuff. With the Omani Padme Hum, I wanted it fully orchestrated, and I was hearing just hum. And that's a big thing in alchemy, hum. Hum is such a big part of my life that I actually had it tattooed on my body recently. My favorite mantra, hum me, hum, because that's how powerful that is to me. So hum is like the most powerful sound to me, like even more so than om. That to me, that's where om comes from, is that people are trying to hum. So I had these hums as the basis of the Omani Padme Hum. You could hear deep, low, powerful humming, and it was just coming out of me in this way. So that's how I started, was this humming. And then from that, then I just started to have it come out, and then I'll record another harmony layer and then another harmony layer. Definitely my operatic training shows in this album. And it just got incredible. Scotty says, I'm not into dresses. Okay, well, you can spin around anyway. We will visualize you, and we'll just visualize you without that dress, okay? All right, so here's the Omani Padme Hum, with hum being fully emphasized. Okay, I'll be back. I have to check on something. What's that? Getting my daughter to bed is apparently a harder thing than I thought. We wanted, the producer and I, our vision of this was just to make you dance and to make you feel joyful. And so he added a lot of the pizzicato strings, the plucking. That was all his idea. He's an incredible composer. I guess, again, you're listening to the composition of Michael Odell with Honeycomb Studios for that. All of that orchestration. And a lot of people asked us questions like, this doesn't appear to be all fluid and together. And we were trying to create an experience where you began to piece things together in your head on your own and build into that fluidity, which it finally did at the end. So it is definitely a different composition, and we liked it this way. Yeah, had a lot of percussion. So there's not too much about the behind the scenes that I can share with you. This is a relatively easy recording for us. We had finally figured out at this point in the album that we do not need to record in the center of the home, because there were interesting things happening. Like we could hear a pigeon like sitting on top of the flue of the fireplace, and occasionally it would coo. And we were like, seriously, or like any little thing. And when we pulled our recording into just one room and kind of just shut the door and just pulled ourselves away from everything, we weren't worrying about the humming of the refrigerator anymore, or any of those things that we were concerned about with, if you're not in a studio and you're trying to record, seriously, those things become a major deal in an album. So we had already figured out that, but we still had to turn off the air conditioner. So I remember just sweating during all this, because it is a big operatic performance. And, for that, there's a lot of high pitches in that and a lot of opera. And I was really just trying to be, trying to keep my voice from going flat, and so many things with that. So it's incredible. I mean, those are my natural pitches anyway, but not in the middle of summer. We were talking like, I think it was like August at the point when we were recording this, August in St. George, Utah, with the air conditioner off. I was hot and my voice was flat, and I was just kind of, I had already done this song like 2 or 3 times, and and Mike would look over at me and he's like, smile when you sing and open your mouth. And I'm like, no, just record it. I was acting like a diva at that point. It was fun. Yeah. So that was my version of the Omani Padme Hum, but it did just come out like layer after layer, piece after piece. I did not prepare it. I did not practice it. I just said, I'm hearing harmonies. I don't know what this is going to sound like. This is what I want to do. Michael, I want to record one harmony over the other. And we sat there with the air conditioner turned off and sweated like crazy and did it. And that's what happened. Yeah. So moving on to the Abwoon. This is the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, which we decided to make a lot more traditional. This was really hard for me. I had to sit with a friend of mine, who does know Aramaic, and he's a Jewish rabbi. And he was like, no, you have to have these. I must have sat with him for probably a couple of weeks before I would actually sit with Michael and record this. But yeah, it was really, really difficult because there's certain things, like I'll pull you to my book with the Abun Dewa Shemaya. So I've got the transliteration of it here, which helps me sing it more effectively. And here is actual interpretation is not what you think. It's not, I might have to put my cat out because he's going to crawl all over everything. It's not what the original Lord's Prayer in English and in religious English. It's not in the secular terms. It's not what you think that it means. So, but when I was sitting with my friend, the Jewish rabbi, he was like, "You cannot do this disrespectfully. You have to speak this Aramaic really, really well." And I had a really, really, really hard time, so it was just, I just couldn't get it. I tried to write this down in so many different ways. Here's me attempting to write down Aramaic and attempting to learn what it sounds like and getting angry and scratching it out. And then finally, I found my best transliteration of this, which was here, where I finally was like, I think this is the way I should be pronouncing it, right? So that was really, really hard. And I'm going to tell you what it actually means. And it's not from the English secular version, what you think that this is not what you think. So here's the Aramaic translation from Aramaic to English. It means this: O thou from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all realms of sound, light, and vibration. May your light be experienced in my utmost sacred. Your heavenly domain approaches. Let your will come true in the universe, all that vibrates, just as on earth. Give us wisdom, understanding, assistance for our daily needs. Detach the fetters of faults that bind us, they're speaking of karma there, as we let go of guilt of others. Let us be freed from that which keeps us from our true purpose. Let us not be lost in superficial things. From you comes the all-working will, the lively strength to act, the song that beautifies all and renews itself from age to age. Sealed in trust, faith, and truth, I confirm with my entire being. That's what it means. So that's the English translation from the Aramaic. So as you can tell, it's really different. So yeah, and I have some little notes that I've written down in there where I was trying to figure out, what's what. And that was a little bit hard to try to figure out because there was no tune that was coming. It's like my harmonies were going all over the place, and the way that it was purely channeled, just strictly channeled. I had no preparation, but I couldn't sing in any Middle Eastern capacity. I have no training in that. So all of these things were coming out of me that I didn't even know how to harmonize with. So I did the melody fine. Okay, fine, meaning it took me 2 hours to do the melody. And then I was all sweaty and pissed and not feeling sacred at all, just angry and frustrated and wanting to give up the entire album by this point. Straight up, I am not telling you a story. Ask anybody that was with me that I was done. I told Michael, I'm like, after this, I am so done. So all of that happened. And then I started trying to do the harmonies and it got worse. The harmonies got worse and they were hard and I was out of pitch and I didn't know what I was doing. And all these ancient Middle Eastern notes were coming out of me that I never heard before. And it's, going from tonal to modal and then back from modal to tonal and craziness. So here it is. Michael added just a little bit. It was primarily a cappella with just a little bit of sitar. And it was that way the whole way. We wanted to keep it pure and traditional. And this is the most difficult song for me to sing on this album. Here's Abun. I wanted to not be afraid to be dissonant. It's easy to be melodic, but I wanted to show dissonance in sound and energy. And this is what this song was about. Scotty said he's feeling it through the tones, not the words. That was definitely my intention, to feel these harmonies. What is the instrument? It is a sitar. lot of times we ended the music with the same singing bowl that it would begin with. So we have a singing bowl and a sitar and my voice, and that's it in this album, and on that song at least. My cat's gonna drive me crazy before this is over. He's his own show. This is Baby Cat. He is new in our family. He is legally blind. He likes my hair. And I mean, like, really likes my hair. So he can see out of one eye. Seriously, stop. I'm not even playing with you. I'm not playing. Get down. No. So he's a little bit of trouble and a lot of funniness. So yeah, so that song was a struggle. It was a lot of harmonies that I really didn't understand, and it felt like it was stripping my essence out and putting it on the table in front of me and being like, look at all these things that you don't love and accept about yourself. Look at it now. That's kind of what this song was. I was going through like a really rewarding but very difficult relationship at that time as well, and it was pulling apart like all my fears about it and like throwing it in front of me and being like, yeah, take that fear, and know that you're sacred no matter what, and know that you're worthy no matter what, and know that you're loved no matter what, and all these things were happening. So this, I would say, this song was about a lot of that and about a lot of self-love. And it's kind of the opposite of the Deer's Cry. Let's put it that way. It's like two different things going on there, energetically. Do you have questions about this one? This one is Abun, which is the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. And that's the behind the scenes that I can tell you about, is that it took hours, probably 8 to 9 hours of recording time before we would get it anywhere close to what it is now. And probably even more so in production time, many more hours of production time after that. Yeah. Yeah. Do I need grounding after that? I did need grounding after that, but mostly I didn't ground. I would just cry it out. Yeah. But no, I didn't end up doing it very well. I didn't do the Aramaic a lot of justice. No, for instance, like when you're looking at these words, like I'll type out some of the words of this so you can see the words when you're singing it, singers. The lyrics, I do have a lyric sheet that comes along with this album if you get it from Amazon Music. So this is, how do you think that's pronounced? It's what I just typed. It is Abun, which is like a VW. It's very weird. And Devois Shemaya. That's like really hard. Devois Shemaya. You don't see an SH in there, but it is there. So here's another one. Here's the second line. My cat is literally breaking everything in my office. Sorry about that. I'm just going to pretend that whatever that was that broke did not break, and we're going to continue. And hopefully he has learned his lesson. Here's another one. These are just transliterations of the language. So this is like Neth Kadash Shamak. See, how do you sing that? How do you sing Neth Kadash Shamak? And you have to like put that CH in there, which by the way, I didn't do. But you didn't hear that my whole album. I wasn't able to do it. I couldn't get any of those things in there. What's the other one? Here's the third line is Tete Mal Kuthak. That's hard. Tete Mal Kuthak. See, those things are hard. I couldn't do it. A third line is Newe Tizvashanak Ikana. Like, it's just ridiculous how hard it is. And this one has a TZEVYANACHAYKANNA. That is the, moving on to like the second verse in the song, the first line is that there. So that is pronounced something similar to Nehue Tevyanak Ikana. Yeah. So I don't do it justice. It's really, really, really hard. So that was that. That was that song. Here's one in my book that I'll be working on for the third one. It is the Puta Mata Ki Assis, Ki Assisis, that one there. Puta Mata Ki Assisis, which is my mother's prayer. It says my mother's prayer. It's a prayer from a mother to a son, or a mother to any child. So, yeah, that's the story behind that one. Okay, so now we're moving on to the Om Namah Shivaya Gurave. I really needed to do the Om Namah Shivaya Gurave very, very differently. I was inspired by Angel's Prayer by Ty Burdo in this one. Even though it doesn't really sound like it in its tune, you'll notice that the way that most people sing the Om Namah Shivaya is very, very similar. So I was deeply inspired by her, and I thought that when I was going to sit down, all of this a cappella would come out and I would layer it and all these things would happen, and it just didn't happen that way. Instead, a bunch of powerful instrumentation came out from Michael, and I just had a very, very different way of singing it. So we, again, started with a little bit of an invocation for you. I bow to the inner guru, the self of all, the embodiment of being, awareness, and bliss, living within everything as its true divine nature, supreme peace, sustaining and supporting. So this language is Gurmukhi. That's coming up. Again, we have the return of the sitar. I wanted this to be traditional. And I wanted it fully orchestrated, so it is. So it's piano, strings, choir, kind of a muted choir, and a sitar, and my singing bowls. So it's very full. And I wanted it to sway. I wanted it to go in and out like waves of an ocean. And that's what Shiva feels like to me. It is waves just swelling and like an ebb and flow of Shiva inside of me was happening when I was singing it. And I wanted the cellos to reflect that, which they did very well right here. My hardest problem in this song was I was sharp on every single high note, so we had to use a lot of autocorrect because I was tired, I was exhausted, and Michael was like, "We've got to get this album done," so I pushed through. So we just wanted a musical experience, when you listen to this, not just my voice, but the whole experience of Shiva is the point of this. Because Shiva is powerful and glorious, and we wanted you to feel that. There's Michael's piano. You can hear it. He's an incredible pianist, by the way. So for the composition and production of this, you can look up Honeycomb Studios. It's right there in my album. Michael Odell is the very talented person who did most of the work in that particular song. He's incredible, isn't he? Yeah. Okay, so now these are the depths of my albums. We're moving on to the Vedic Invocation of Power and Strength. So this is from the Samaveda. And it is incredible. I did put the mantra in some of the words in the album, so you can see it in the lyric list, but it's an invocation. The Sanskrit behind it is meant to invoke a deep, profound power and strength when you're going through really difficult times, to bring you into your own heavenly realms, to bring you into your own bliss, to bring you into your power when you don't feel well. So this is a blessing. We started out with my singing bowls, as we do in all of my blessing songs. So the story behind this was I just pulled out the Samaveda and I opened it up, and I just had it. I just had it like right then and there. And I remember Michael and Patty were out on the back porch, and I went outside and I said, I need you to come inside. I don't know what you're doing, but I need you to record something now or it's going to go away, because that's how blessings do. So I sat there with my bowl and the Samaveda opened on my lap, and I just sang this. This came out just like this, and it took one take. We recorded this in about 15 minutes. And I was getting images of like sitting in a stream and water just flowing throughout my form until I couldn't feel that I had a form, and I couldn't tell the difference between where my body ended and the water would begin. And I felt all this water just coming out of me, and I just wanted to share it with you. And I'm like, I just have to sing like this water. I am this water. I want this water to just come out of me and go to you. And that's what this blessing was about. It's about cleansing and kind of, I remember at the end of the song, I saw a vision of me standing above the water naked and powerful and strong and tall and pure. And I saw a bunch of like elven type of beings around me. Honestly, it felt like I was in Lord of the Rings or something. It felt like my spirit had been at war, and then suddenly it wasn't. And you realize you're not in war, and that you're pure and everything's okay and safe. That's what it felt like during this song. And it's funny, I felt like I was going to end this mantra, this blessing, and I couldn't. And then I got this second wind. And it just kept going. And I'm like, I'm going to end this piece very peaceful, and then thought it was going to end here. And then it didn't. the water that in my vision just picked up and it just lifted me. Right here, I could see myself lifted out of the water and just like sitting on it. And with my arms just out like this when I was singing this part. And I felt like I was crying with the river during that part as well. That my tears were feeding the river. But my tears weren't sad. They were just purifying. It felt like the essence of this song had to do with purity. And I remember at this point in the song, I could feel all the collectives of elemental beings around me just singing with me, around me, like in the water with me, just singing and connecting with me and merging with me. And it was an incredibly peaceful feeling. And then the bells, the reason why those are my singing bells. I sing bowls and I wanted them to sound like church bells out in the distance somewhere, like telling people that it's safe to come into their home, to come into their lands again. It felt like that to me, like the bells were like, it's okay, it's safe to come back to your lands, as if people had been hiding out in the forest or something. It was a strange feeling. And then people left, I could see people leaving forests and coming back to their homes and to their villages. So I know this is past lifetime inspired, that particular one. And then this is probably one of the hardest ones for Michael, my music producer, to get into. He did most of the instrumentation on this. And it is another Vedic invocation. And I initially called it the Vedic invocation for family connection. And then I changed it to the Vedic invocation of family karmic clearing, because it felt like I was taking upon lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of collective stuff. And just, it starts out really sad, and then it pulls you into that sadness, and then it helps you transmute it. And it takes you into every level of grief, anger. I felt a lot of love and betrayal and like unrequited love, but definitely betrayal. That was coming up big. That's one of my beliefs in this lifetime, actually feeling betrayed. All these things were coming out of me because I was going through this time in my life where I knew I was about to be betrayed. Like I knew it in my core and I could just feel it. And I'm like, oh, this stuff is coming around in my beautiful, loving family and it's about to hit again. So what am I going to do to transmute it? So this song was about that. It was about really clearing all this stuff and being okay. Like that if I did get betrayed, that if I was carrying that for my grandmother and my mother and any brothers and sisters down to me, and that I want to clear, that I want to be the one that has the honor to clear all that for all of my ancestors. So that's what that was about. It gives you permission to feel what you're actually experiencing and not run from it, and understand that it is an honor to clear for our ancestors, So it will definitely help you heal a lot for you. So you can listen to this whenever you really need to transmute something. And I remember when I was singing these Om Shantis, I was grieving. I'm like, I can't even sing Om Shanti peacefully. It was like crying the Om Shanti. It was haunting to me. That was the feeling that I was going through. Even my harmonies were very dissonant. And I remember telling Michael, I'm like, haunt us with this piano, make us feel what I'm feeling. I felt this was kind of like a negotiation with my ancestors, like, okay, I can do this, I can be peaceful, I'm about to really have my heart broken, but I'm gonna just ask you this one time to not let it happen. This is what this part of the invocation is. I'm like pleading in Sanskrit to my ancestors, don't do this. And I was really sad. It's a lot of grief. Sometimes knowing the future is really hard. But then I started to feel a little peaceful about it. As you can hear, the musical resolve change there. I'm like, okay, if this is going to happen, I'm starting to get used to it now, and I might be okay if whatever grief is about to happen in my family is going to. Like, acceptance. At this point, I was kind of lifting my pain into higher realms, like pleading for it to be gone. Now, this time you get to experience an essence of grief again, perhaps differently. Same verse, different feeling. This is me attempting to transmute grief into acceptance at this point. So it's higher notes, playing around with it a little. Now this kind of turned again into trust and acceptance and an ultimate surrender to the grief. Like I had this feeling that even though I was about to really have my heart broken, that for some reason that I could still trust it, that I would still be okay. And that's when the music changed a good bit right here. I'm like, okay, it's this feeling of something bad's about to happen, but I'm still safe in this uncertainty. This is very suspenseful right here because you're uncertain, but you feel safe about it. And you feel peaceful about being afraid, it can be very empowering. So that note there, that transition was a deep acceptance, a deep forgiveness of everything that was happening and was about to get worse. It actually did in my life. It was like my music predicted something. That's me transmuting the anger of it. I was angry and it was like a swelling wave, those strings there going. That's my anger. And then settling out again. So I felt there that I want to get quiet, that I was losing my voice in something, but I was peaceful about it. So then I just stopped singing, and it goes straight to singing bowls. That it was okay to be quiet about whatever I had just transmuted. So I put that last on the album because it was the most difficult. Other than the Abun, the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, this is probably the most difficult one. And I put it at the last part of my album because it's closure. And the first part of my album is about a new beginning. So everything that is in the middle is my stage along the way. Yeah, someone said this song has Lilith written all over it. Yeah, so that is the Vedic invocation of family karmic clearing. Yeah, that's everything that's about. So, questions before we close. Does anyone have questions about any of the processes that I was going through? Any behind the scenes stuff you want to know about this album? I think I've told you the majority of it, what I was feeling. There were a few songs that didn't make it. Particularly the 2 Maori songs that I wanted on there did not end up being on there. The Gurmukhi Names of God did not end up being on there this time because we were just rushed. We were just rushing upon some time, a time limit and a deadline. So that's why those things did not end up on there. It is already on Spotify, yes. So you can just find my name, and both of my albums are there. But again, it's the second one that's the new one, and it's called Sacred Songs of the Heart. Which song was the most healing? This one, and Abun. You would think that it would be a deer's cry, but it's not, because there's nothing to heal with that. There's just so much perfection in that one that that wasn't a transmutation song. Yeah. Was that me singing? Yes, Linda. That's my second album. That's on in all stores right now that you can find. And this podcast is about me answering all your questions and discussing all the behind the scenes things that were going on in my life at the time, and just giving you a preview of it in case you wanted it. It says, oh my gosh, it's such a cheap cost. It definitely was not about the money at all. You can download each of them for like 99 cents or the whole album for like $7. Like, I basically just handed it to you. So I do not make money off music except for with occasional donations, but that's about it. So did Jesus show up in the one with the Aramaic? You're going to be kind of mad at me, but no, actually Muhammad did. Yeah. Yeshua was there, and the deer's cry. Yeah. And a lot there for Halal and Lilith were all there for the Vedic family karmic clearing one. Yeah. You can't wait to hear the Longtime Sun from me. Oh, you know what? I'll tell you what. If you guys email me a list of songs that you want to hear, if I connect to the songs, I will put them on one of the upcoming albums. So for album 3 so far, I know that Putamata Mi Akis will be on there. That's a Gurmukhi one. The Longtime Sun may definitely be on there. It's been a big thought of mine for that, for sure. I have more of those Vedic invocations. At least one more will be on there. I have a deep notion to put names of God in there, particularly things from the Japji. When I came out of realization, I had written down over 1,000 names of God, and a lot of those names you will see in album 3 because album 3 is about names of God. So performing live, oh yeah. I mean, right now my life is so full. I don't know, for those of you who don't know my life, I am a mom of 4 kids. My youngest is 7, and my oldest is going to be 18 in February. So most of my kids are teenagers, but she's my youngest, and she's like the work of all 3 of the others. Like she is a handful. So traveling is a little bit difficult. Um, so I'm not the type of musician that actually knows how to do these things. If I have an orchestra behind me or musicians with me, that I can do it. But the whole technical production, because being on live is a big sound production where you need to have all those instruments prepared or pre-recorded or play them yourself or have musicians, and that's just kind of a bigger task that I would love to do, but I'm not no way, shape, or form prepared to know how to do. I'm kind of newer at this in terms of recording, and being a musician more live is difficult because I don't know what to do with all the instruments that are there. Singing the easy part. Yeah. Any more questions about the album or about my process with it? I like that, Ani. Um, oh, thank you, A. Barnard, about that comment with Anamkara. Yeah. Yeah, Lemurian Blessing of the Orishas is hauntingly beautiful? Huh. That's an interesting way to describe it. I felt like I didn't even with that one, I it just also came out of me so quickly, and it was so powerful, and it wasn't really meant to be haunting, but it was meant to be just kind of like in your face powerful joy. Like you have to dance, you have to smile with that song. It is catchy and you have to be happy. It's like bam, happiness in your face now. That's how that song felt to me when it came out. Yeah. Merry Christmas to you, Wasim. Susan, my God, we go so far back. Oh my gracious. I met Susan when, before I was even pregnant with my oldest child, who's almost 18 now. Like, that's how long our friendship lasts. That's how long she's been with me. I honor friends like that. It's incredible. Yeah. Is it channeling? Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Lemurian blessing of the Orishas is Lemurian light language. And you can go back later if you want to just kind of scroll back through the full description. But I wrote out the words and told you the light language and what it meant and everything. But yeah, it was definitely channeling. Most of the songs are channeled, at least in their melodies, not always in their words. But the Lemurian light language is completely just me being me. Oh, I love you too, Susan. And as far as the other ones, they are, Omani Padme Hum and Om Namah Shivaya. Those are mantras. So I obviously those words don't belong to me, but the music does. The way that I sing it, the chorus and all the harmonies are mine. And insofar as composition, the majority of that, with the exception of the singing bowls, is from Michael Odell. You can find him at Honeycomb Studios in Cincinnati, Ohio, but he does work remotely as well. So he did all the mixing and producing and composing. Yeah. Where can you find it? Anywhere. You can find it on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube should be, they take a little bit longer, but it should be there. I haven't researched that yet, but it should be there soon if it isn't already. Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, all those places, iHeartRadio, any of those places. Yeah. Okay, guys, if you don't have any more questions, we've been at it for about an hour and a half, so I guess we can close. And I look forward to more. Have some channelings coming up on Patreon with Halal and Yeshua coming up here in a few days on Patreon. That'll be really, really interesting. And with Mary and Lilith as well, collaborations with more of myself and Lightworkers 613. So you'll see a lot more coming up with that this month and next, as usual. So thank you so much for your support, and thank you for buying the album. Is getting an incredible response so far. I had no idea that it would get that kind of response. I'm just kind of throwing my heart at you and being like, "Hey, here, catch," and you do. So I am always deeply humbled when you do, and thankful that you love this. And out of all the things that I've offered, whether it be channeling of the Christ conscious beings or spiritual teachings or the yoga program that I teach, it seems that you love this the most. You keep coming back to the music. You seem to want more and more music, more and more music. So I'm working hard to get it to you. And hopefully next year you'll see an album 3, and we'll shove that out as quickly as we can. Again, my harpist and close friend Maria is coming, and we're so excited. We're so excited to be collaborating together. And just so many of my friends are coming to collaborate. So the third album will be a little bit more of a collaborative effort with some friends that you may know very well. So I will see you on Patreon and here and everywhere, and in your hearts and in your dreams and in your lives. And I thank you so much. I'm deeply, deeply grateful. Have a blessed holiday. I'll see you soon. Satnam.